To say I've been in the world of work for a long time would be somewhat an understatement. I've been working since I was maybe 16, and that means I've been working more than 40 years by this point. And in my time in the working world, I've been asked to step into positions of leadership of one kind or another, some official and some official, some unofficial, excuse me, some in the military, some outside of it. Most of them minor by comparison, none of them particularly major things. Part of the reason that I have not typically been selected as a major leader is it's never been a driving desire of mine to accomplish that end. It's never been something that I've set myself with the idea of doing, right? And the result is that, that's why I have tended not to be a leader on a broader and wider scale. And I want to talk today about leadership on today's Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I am your host. I'm Kurt. Glad to have you here today, whether you're on Rumble, on YouTube, on the podcast, or somewhere else, frankly. If you happen to be able to have picked me up from somewhere else, that's fine too. In any case, so I wanted to sort of talk about the idea of leadership, and I wanted to spend just a moment talking about that from not a unique perspective by any stretch of the imagination, but one that I think a lot of people don't consider when they consider leadership, and particularly those who ought to. And those people would be, well, Christians, right? Christians ought to be considering that, okay? By the way, in case I didn't say it, it is Wednesday, the 24th of March of 2021 today. I don't remember if I said that, so I thought I'd go ahead and throw that in there just so you know. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here in a minute is I'm going to throw up a biblical quote with regard to leadership that I want for you to hear, right? Because it's important. People take this to mean one thing, and in reality it means something not completely different, but they're looking at more of a subset of what it's talking about than what it actually says. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this up now. It is a quote from the King James Version of the Bible. It is Matthew 20, 25 through 28, and it says this: "But Jesus called unto him, and said, Ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. But it shall not be so among you. But whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister. And whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many." Now, there's a couple of things in there that you might kind of look at and go, I don't see the problem with that. The first of those is the use of the word minister. Most people use the word minister to mean something that it really was never designed to mean. They're talking about a church guy who happens to have authority in a given church. Guess what? The word minister is with regard to helping other people to accomplish ends that they need to accomplish. It is not quite the same word as servant, the other word that's used. Another thing that people might have a problem with is the expression, even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto. Well, that's Jesus. He's talking about himself essentially in the third person, I guess you could say. But he's talking about himself. He's saying, look, I didn't come here to be ministered to, but to minister, and I'm not here to expect others to give their life for me, but to give my life for others. And here's something that's really important about this. Many people take ideas like this and they apply them to the church, and they forget conveniently to apply them to the rest of the world. What he's saying here is this: look, if you want to be the chief among people, if you want to be the leader among folks, guess what? You need to be a servant. You need to be a minister. That's who you are. That doesn't just apply to your Christian friends or fellows, if you will. That's not how that works. That's a life lesson right there. That's the way to look at that. That is a life lesson, okay? And that's how you need to take this. You don't need to take this as something where somebody is trying to impart wisdom that applies only to the church and while you're inside the four walls, which, by the way, the church's four walls is another fallacy that I have addressed in past and probably will end up addressing again at some point. Church isn't four walls. The church is people, and you are part of the church. As part of the church, that means everywhere you go, you bring the church with you. And what that means is that when you deal with other people, you are representing Jesus's church to humanity. So when you come out as a leader or whatever, when you're desirous to or required to come out as a leader, what you need to be sure of is that you are acting in this way. Whosoever will be chief among you, let him be your servant, right? Whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister. And Jesus exemplified, typified this behavior. It's not something he said that he didn't do. No, he did it. He washed his disciples' feet, which was a sign of his ministry. Okay, and that's another word that a lot of people don't seem to realize they're getting wrong. Ministry, and some people, I might say, some people have literally said to me recently something that I quite like, and that is part of my ministry was helping somebody fix the hole in their roof or put a deck on their house where they had cinder blocks to get into the house before that time. Yeah, that's ministry. That's what ministry looks like, boys and girls. Let's just make that perfectly clear. So the question you should sort of be asking yourself is, what should leadership look like? And what particularly should leadership look like for Christians, whether in church, whether in a building with other believers or outside? What should it look like? And the answer, in my opinion, that you should get is you become the minister. You may even still lead. I used to work for a guy many years ago, and he used to say, I direct traffic. It's what I do. He didn't look at his viewpoint as anything more than simply making sure people knew what needed to be done and doing it. That was it. That's what he did. And this guy was not some low-class, low-position individual. He was like a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. So for those of you that kind of know, he's not up there in the really high positions, in the lofty positions, but he's not in one that most people would. He literally ran a squadron, and that's what he said is, look, what I do is I direct traffic. And I came in one Sunday to do a job and found that he'd done the job and left a note that said, just wanted to check to see how long this job takes. That's literally what he said. And did he do the job right? Yeah. Yes, he did. He did the job correctly. My point is that this, to me, is what leadership among Christians and between Christians and people who are not believers should look like. This is what leadership should look like. I'm not saying that you don't ever have to put a foot down or whatever to make sure that people get served properly. Because look, in serving one person, I might have to tell another person, you need to do your job. It's that simple. I might have to do that, and I'm not saying otherwise. My service doesn't end with the people I'm a leader over. My service continues to the people I'm supposedly serving outside of those who work for me, for example, right? The point here is simple. The point is, lots of people have this picture of leadership of somebody sitting in their ivory tower issuing edicts from on high. And let me just tell you something. As a leader, as a Christian and a leader, that is not something you're called to do. I'm not saying you don't maybe sit in what lots of people would term an ivory tower for some part of your life, for some part of your time. But I am saying that your job is to serve those people who you see yourself as leading. And I'm not saying you're not leading them. In fact, I'm saying that's the point. Service and leadership look the same. It's just a question of how you serve in many instances. All right, I'm coming up on the end of my time, so I hope you're getting the idea. Basically, the simple reality is put out in Matthew 20:25 through 28, and I think that's something that a lot of Christians would do well to go back and review, because I think a lot of them have not forgotten, but it sort of has slipped their mind that this is what their own, leader, their main guy, who was God in the flesh, according to everything I know, says about leadership, about being in charge. All right, so today again was Wednesday, the 24th of March of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Thursday, the 25th of March of 2021. So far, we're having a beautiful day today. As I say, today we've talked on the subject of leadership. Tomorrow we will talk on the subject of traditions of men. And I want to sort of relate that to how people view, quote, the church. And I think that I have something useful and worthwhile to say there. I'm having a wonderful day today, even though before too long I'm going to be out of my daytime gig and have to be looking for another one. I'm still having a beautiful day today, and I hope that you're doing the same. Hope things are going well for you as you trundle towards the weekend. It being Wednesday, you're in the middle of that work week for most people. Hope things are going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Wednesday, March 24th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.